Hey YouTube. Back again with another live video. You already know who it is. It's the one and only Damien Moody, also known as Kashmere Majesty. And I am back with reading one out of plenty of books I have. I wanted to read Rest in Power, The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin by his parents, Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin. For those of you who don't have this book, you can find this book at your bookstore, Amazon, eBay. I'm pretty sure everywhere you can get books, they got it. Or else they have a docu-series on Paramount Network produced by Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z. So now we're on chapter 10, and this is Tracy from March 27, 2012 to July 6, 2012. After the rallies and speeches were over, things started happening. A series of damning dominoes began falling for the man who shot our son. March 27th, the Justice for Trayvon movement moved on to Washington, D.C., where on Capitol Hill, we addressed the issue of racial profiling with the House Judiciary, judiciary our judiciary. I'm sorry, I'll be pronouncing words wrong. Committee. I'm sorry. The word is Judiciary. Please forgive me. Like I said, y'all know I might pronounce something wrong. Y'all can help me out in the comments if y'all want to. But anywho, before we even went on, before we even went into the chamber, we met with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, Sheila Jackson Lee, Fred Frederica Wilson, Maxine Waters, and others to discuss how important our message would be to begin the movement to better protect and value the lives of our nation's young people of color. When we walked inside, the chamber was packed. There were important figures from civil rights history in the room, including right in the front row, former Little Rock Nine member Ernest Gideon Green, who made history in 1957 by integrating Little Rock Central High School. But more important, maybe, were the young people. A line of teenagers lined up outside the hearing room, hoping to get a spot inside for the hearing. I was starting to believe that Trayvon had inspired his peers to find their peace in our long history of activism. I could sense that this generation was ready to take its stand to fight for their own rights. There are main speakers: me, Sabrina Crump, Congresswoman Curran Brown, even House Speaker John Boehner, who called the shooting of our son a tragedy. But the person who might have had the biggest impact spoke the following day: Bobby Rush, then 65, a senior Democratic congressman represented Illinois' first district. Apparently, he was so moved by our story that he wore a gray hoodie beneath his pinstripe suit jacket with the into the congressional chamber. The presiding speaker, Greg Harper, a Republican from Mississippi's 3rd District, gave Rush the floor. He began speaking, and shortly into his remarks, he moved his suit jacket, revealing the sweatshirt and pulling his hood over his head while continuing his speech. Racial profiling has to stop, Mr. Speaker. He, conti- he continued. Just because someone wears a hoodie does not make them a hoodlum. I agree because, like I said, I was much like Trayvon. I wore it due to I still wear a hoodie. Yeah, I still wear a hoodie. It could be because I don't like. At the end of the day, I feel like I'm not presentable. My hair probably ain't up to par, or maybe I'm just hiding myself because, or maybe it's just that I like wearing hoodies. It could be any reason, but I've been wearing a hoodie for years, and I remember people coming up to me like, "Are you hot? It's like 100 degrees, and you wearing a hoodie." I remember times where I'll be wearing a hoodie, and my bus driver, one of my bus drivers, her name was Miss Tanya. She used to complain because I never took my hoodie off. She would try to get like people on the like other students in the bus to take my hoodie off, like people I was cool with to take my hoodie off, or I don't know if it's because she thought because I was cool with them, she's gonna get them to take my hoodie off, or she felt like I was scared, or I don't know. I remember when I first grew my hair out and I had cornrows, she got my friend, and at the time Evan, to take my hoodie off, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I had my hoodie on because I want to have my hoodie on. You don't need to be telling people to take my hoodie off. But yep, still to this day, I don't care how hot it is outside. I probably will wear a hoodie. All right, racial profiling has to stop, Mr. Speaker. He continued. Just because someone wears a hoodie does not make them a hoodlum. Now he replaced his eyeglasses with a pair of sunglasses. As he began reading from the Bible, reminding us that the Lord requires us to do justly, love mercifully, and walk humbly with our God. Speaker Harper began pounding his gavel, calling on Rush to stop speaking, but Bobby Rush raised his voice higher and moved on to another passage as he hung his jacket on the podium while Harper banged his gavel incessantly, louder and louder, demanding for Rush to stop speaking. May God bless Trayvon Martin's soul, his family, and Rush were as the microphone at the podium was disconnected and he was escorted out of the room, calling for justice until he was on the other side of the house doors. Harper requested that the sergeant at arms enforce prohibit I can't talk the prohibition on decorum, remind the House members of the rule that prohibited them from wearing hats in the chamber. Although a hoodie is not a hat, the chair finds the donning of a hood is not consistent with this rule. He said members need to remove their hoods or leave the floor. We reached out to Bobby Rush and gave him a big thanks. March 31st. Another big rally in Sanford. This one beginning in Goldsboro, the African American community in Sanford. 1,000 people were led through historic streets by Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and the NAACP President Benjamin Jealous. More people lined the sidewalks and walked from porches and balconies as the demonstration marched through the neighborhood to the front of the Sanford Police Department where the NAACP meeting would be held. In these early rallies and the larger ones that followed, we felt our best chance for justice was peaceful demonstration as opposed to violence, even though we personally felt as much anger as the people in Ferguson, Missouri did, where the police killing of Michael Brown in August 2014 would turn into violence that raged for days and nights. We had to think strategically. I'm sorry. We were being advised by veterans of of the civil rights movement as well as the new activists. What good would it have done to tear up our own neighborhood? Whether it's Miami Gardens outside Miami or the African American community of Goldsboro and Sanford, it wasn't about people over property. We didn't just care about depreciating the value of where we live. We were concerned with if no one else being killed. Others saw things differently. People wanted to get involved but didn't know how, didn't know what to do. People were doing things that we couldn't control, like putting a $10,000 bounty for the capture of the killer. We prayed that things didn't explode, which we knew would happen slowly and then quickly. It could be something as simple as burning a garbage can and then someone else throws a garbage can through a store window and the spark lights the fire and burns the neighborhood down, leaving what? Ashes, more rage, and no progress. People, I don't know. People just do stuff just to do it. People were ready to burn, loot, destroy. I understand the anger myself, but I had my own brushes with anger and the damage that can cause earlier in my life, and had always thought Trey and my other kids uh, taught Trey and my other kids to find better ways to deal with conflict, with rage, even when it's justifiable rage. It would be hypocritical to promote violence now in my son's name. If we promoted that, what would it do? We weren't here to express our rage and then go home. We were trying to seek justice. As Sabrina would later say, we know that Trayvon won't be able to rest in peace until there is peace. If we held our heads with our mission high, we felt sure that justice would prevail. When the rally arrived at the Sanford Police Station on March 31st, the crowd gathered around the temporary stage set up by the NAACP with their seal on either side, a podium in the middle, and a huge picture of Trayvon and his hoodie as a backdrop. Benjamin Jella spoke, and so did Reverend Jackson. By the time they were done with their rousing remarks, the crowd had reached a fever pitch, chanting and cheering, crowding closer to the stage. Now, a member of the NAACP introduced Reverend Sharpton. As he lists Sharpton's past achievements, the crowd began shouting, "Bring him on, bring him on." Reverend Sharpton took the stage, absorbing the applause, and before it completely died down, he spoke into the microphone. "No justice," he said, and the crowd roared back, "No peace." "No justice," said the Reverend, "no peace." "What do we want?" he asked. "Justice." "When do we want it now?" "I am," Reverend Sharpton said to end his electric entrance. "Trayvon," said the crowd. "I am Trayvon. I am Trayvon. I am Trayvon." "All right," Sharpton said as he quieted the crowd and began his speech. Another passionate exhortation for justice. He finished it with these words: "We are living in the middle of an American paradox. We've made great progress, and at the same time, in some areas, we haven't moved at all. The American paradox that we can put a black man in a White House and we can walk a black child through a gated neighborhood. We are not selling out, bowing out, or backing down until there is justice for Trayvon Martin." Oh, no. Mm-hmm. Enter the Dream Defenders, a group of 40 activists, including college students, graduates, and organizers, band together by Yumi Silla, formerly Philip Agnew, a 27-year-old former format, format critical, pharmaceutical. I don't know if I know. Like I said, y'all, I don't see some of these words very often, so I apologize if I'm pronouncing anything wrong. Salesman from Chicago, now living in Miami. Salah was so moved by our story that he quit his job and created a group named for their mission to defend the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. Most were from Florida colleges, but others came from as far away as Atlanta to participate in the march against racial profiling, institutional racism, and the legacy of violence, according to the group's leaders. The group marched for 3 days and 40 miles from Daytona Beach to Sanford. What made the march so beautiful to me was that the young people were going beyond just demanding justice for Trayvon and for an arrest. They were also using this moment to move civil rights forward and maintain the energy and enthusiasm surrounding Trayvon's death to create long lasting change. I once again felt my son's presence in these people, proud that even though he was gone and would never be able to go to college or become an activist, his spirit lived on in the actions of young people. On the March final day, the Dream Defenders entered the city of Sanford, led by two students holding a banner that read, "We are Trayvon Martin." They knelt in front of the Sanford police station, blocking its doors and preventing people from entering or exiting. The next morning, the Sanford Police Department was shut down, closing its doors to the public for a day. The Dream Defenders had shut down the Sanford Police Station. They remained kneeling in front of the building, praying for Trayvon and our family, praying for justice, praying for this country. They also met with city leaders, hoping that their voices were heard, but knowing either way they would keep fighting for what's right, and the hope that as the defenders leader, Yumi Salah said, their struggle would awaken the country. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, yeah, I watch a few documentaries and stuff like that, but it's a few other people who I would love to read their story in the book, especially the Kendrick Johnson one. That documentary was crazy. The strangest thing yet, the killer had disappeared. To be honest, speaking on that, I wish that I could find a way to screen share and like watch stuff on YouTube without getting in trouble for copywriting. Because on some real stuff, I really watch a lot of documentaries and stuff, and do like a react as you watch type of video. I just don't want to get in trouble. Y'all know how YouTube is, and then that documentary speaks on the lot and shows a lot. I just don't want to get in trouble, but that's one documentary I do want. I mean, I would like to watch and react to. The strangest thing yet, the killer had disappeared. At least from his attorneys, who held several press conferences in front of the Seminole County Courthouse in Sanford. Bullshit. Somebody was hiding them. The attorneys Craig Sonner and Hal Offrig announced they would be withdrawing as his legal counsel. Their reason they had lost control of and contact with their client. They could not find him. Although they had never met him in person, they had been communicating with him daily via phone and email. Now they had lost track of him and hadn't been able to reach him for 2 days, although they seemed certain he was still in the United States. Meanwhile, the killer made an off the record phone call to Fox News commentator Sean Hannity and even tried to contact special prosecutor Angela Corey, but the attorney said that she had refused to speak to him without counsel. The killer had even set up his own website called The Real George Zimmerman, where he was collecting money and communicating electronically with supporters. As a result of the incident and subsequent media coverage, I had been forced to leave my home, my school, my employer, my family, and ultimately my entire life. He wrote on his website, this website's sole purpose is to ensure my supporters they are receiving my full attention without any intermediaries. He was asking for people to take care of him, and people crawled out of the woodwork to actually do it. I was sickened by it. The news of his disappearance was surprising. We knew he had been in hiding, and we would later learn that he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and he had been under the impression he was still in Florida, and we had been under the impression he was still in Florida when his attorneys further announced that he had likely left the state. we became concerned that he had become a flight risk. Crump issued a statement on our behalf. Some experts wonder if these documents would force Angela Corey hand in issuing a warrant for his arrest sooner than she would have liked. But as far as the state was concerned, this was a non-issue. The fact remained that until there is a warrant, he was free to go wherever he wanted. Y'all racist fucks. The biggest and most important domino drop thus far. We were in Washington at Reverend Sharpton's National Action Network annual convention with Pastor Jamal Bryant, Reverend Sharpton, and our attorneys Parks and Crump. The conference room was filled with representatives from the NAACP and the Urban League, all working on strategies for our case when word came out that Angela Corey was going to hold a press conference. I don't know who's popping in and out and in and out and out the live, but I appreciate anyone that hops in the live, support whatever you like, you comment, whatever. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, be notified. Share my videos with friends and family. If you want to be a loyal supporter and subscriber, feel free to donate. My Cash App is Kashmere Majesty 26. I do accept YouTube donations. Your donations help out with a lot. If anyone wants to see wig reviews, mannequin head reviews, mukbangs, or whatever you want to see, or maybe you just like my channel and felt like you wanted to be generous and support. Once I know that you are serious and I get your donations, you will get a shout out and I will show you some love back throughout my videos. And that's my way of knowing who's real and who's just botting my channel. It had been 45 agonizing and crazy busy days since our son's shooting. Before going on television for the press conference, Angela Corey had called Ben Crump and said something to this effect. She and her team had met and believed that they had enough evidence to charge and arrest the killer whose story they came to believe didn't add up. The charges would reflect the state attorney's belief that the killer had, for all intents and purposes, stalked Trayvon before he shot him, just as we felt all along. Then she called me. My heart was pounding uncontrollably from the tension of the moment, and I barely heard anything she said until she got to these words. We are charging him for the death of Trayvon. She then spoke to Sabrina, and when they were done, a small group met in the side room in front of the television and waited for the press conference to begin. Finally, there she was, wearing a red jacket and standing between two American flags on the stage in Sanford, members of the police department and her legal team beside her. Just moments ago, we spoke by phone with Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin. She began. It was less than 3 weeks ago that we told those three parents that we would get answers to all of their questions, no matter where our quest is. For the truth, let us. And it is the search for justice for Trayvon that has brought us to this moment. The team here with me has worked tirelessly looking for answers in Trayvon Martin's death. She introduced the prosecutors, John Guy and Bernie De La Brianna, and gave the acknowledgments to those who had assisted in the investigation. She said they didn't take anything from. She said they didn't take anything in the case or the arrest lightly, and offered some details of their investigation. She said that they were trying to seal out the public clamor around the cage. She and her office mission was to seek the truth. The truth is already the hell out there. Everybody talking, they trying to see this and they trying to get this and get that, get this and get that. The truth been out there alone. I mean, ever since the shit happened. That's what I don't get. Everybody want to help. Everybody want to help. The truth is out there. The motherfucker is racist. He got family even saying he racist. I just don't understand why, even to this day, this Trayvon family did not get justice. And this man probably still to this goddamn day just walk around doing whatever the fuck he want. Today we filed an information charge in George Zimmerman with today we filed an information charge in George Zimmerman with murder in the second degree. She said the compliance has been issued for his arrest. With the filing of that information in in, in the issuance of the capias or compliance, whatever that word is, he will have the right to appear in front of the magistrate in Seminole County within 24 hours of his arrest, and thus formal prosecution will begin. We thank all of those across the county who have sent positive energy and prayers our way. We ask you to continue to pray for Trayvon's family as well as for our prosecution team. We want to especially thank Mr. Crump and Mr. Parks who have stayed in touch daily with us on behalf of our victims' family. Remember, it is Trayvon's family that are constitutional victims and who have the right to know the critical stages of these proceedings. Corey then confirmed that the killer had already turned himself in. I mean, it felt like the weight of the world had been lifted from us. We thank God, we pray. This is what we had been waiting 45 days to happen. All the long hours of traveling, all the time away from our families, all the strain of watching Trayvon criticized by strangers, all of that had brought us here. Our voices they had tried to silence through inaction, were being heard. Our son might yet rest in peace. Man. After Angela Corey finished speaking to the press conference, I turned to Sabrina. Tears were running down both of our faces. I told you they were going. We were going to get justice. I said I can't say I always believed this would happen because in the beginning it didn't look like it would, but we kept our faith and had been waiting for this moment. We knew this wasn't the end, but just another beginning. There was still much more work to do. But we finally had a chance at justice. At last, we had proof that I mean, belief in the American system of justice was justified. Sabrina was overcome with emotion, immediately reverting from activist to mother in mourning, and she cried and cried with grief and gratitude, and finally relieved. We would have our day in court. I took Sabrina's hand, she took Gerard's hand, and we silently took Trayvon's hand. We're going to get justice, I said. We're going to get justice for Trayvon. The killer had turned himself into the state police in Jacksonville and was then driven to the John E. Polk Correctional Facility in Sanford, where he was photographed entering the building with a black coal hiding his head. After the arrest, we were amazed at and grateful for leg- the legends of people, some of them famous, who were still coming to our side. Some came through social media, others in person at marches, rallies, and personal appearances. April 12th, the next day, the killer appeared in court with a gray prison jumpsuit beside his attorney, Mark O'Mara, who said Zimmerman had no money and that he would be providing representation without charge. We weren't there, but we saw the media coverage and heard from prosecutors. The killer in shackles with his hair cut close to his scalp and wearing a few days' growth of beard kept his composure during the first court appearance. But he appeared shocked and dazed as he stood beside O'Mara, who would represent the killer with his co-counsel Don West. I first saw them on the television news and read about them in newspapers. They were two middle-aged Orlando lawyers in suits. While I was told they had impressive law school educations and resumes. They were now representing the killer of my son, so we were adversaries from the start. The team would be led by O'Mara, a tall, redhead, longtime trial lawyer, originally from Queens, New York, who was soon all over the media, including in this account from NBC. The Central Florida defense attorney and former prosecutor has nearly 30 years of experience under his belt representing clients in criminal cases ranging from drunk driving to the death penalty. He also has clock time in front of the television cameras, serving as a legal analyst for a local station WKMG Channel 6, where he commented on high-profile cases, including the Casey Anthony case and even the Martin one, before he was hired to represent Zimmerman. Don West, a Pell Ball, a longtime Orlando defense attorney, had come to Florida to start a private law practice in the 1980s. I don't know why we care to know any information about them. Uh, hold on. I'll get back to y'all. Let me talk to this boy real quick.